What is up guys, Andy Forest Team Runner here, back with another video for you today, and today I want to welcome you back to the Marathon Workout Focus series, the series that's running alongside nicely our sub 255 marathon training series. If you don't know what this series is guys and you're new to the channel, this series is basically where I am picking out specific workouts from my plan of that week and talking about them in a little bit more detail, kind of giving you an insight as to why I enjoy or dislike doing them, giving you an insight as to how beneficial they are to your training, and of course maybe if you want to try them, some hints and tips as to how you can incorporate them into your marathon training plan. So without further ado, let's jump into today, and today's topic is the long run workout. Not just the long run, but the long run workout. A lot of us know how important the long run is to do on our marathon training. It's really important to start to work on getting that mileage in, increasing the mileage slowly so that we're getting up closer and closer to that race distance. Obviously I, as a rule of thumb, don't stay on my feet for more than 3 hours at a time during marathon training, and that is exactly where our training plan that I have going at the moment with Doug will be stopping at a maximum of a 3 hour run. I don't like to be on my feet for longer than that. But obviously I know everyone's different, and in particular today what I want to talk about is maximising the benefits of the long run by incorporating a bit of speed work in there as well to make it a long run workout. So I don't particularly have any footage of a long run workout for you this week. Obviously you guys see a lot of that on the weekends when I do my subs 255 marathon training series, and hopefully you've been following along with those workouts. If you haven't, I'd encourage you to go and revisit, in particular the last two. They've got some good footage in there of the long run workout and me documenting my journey, going through that, the mental aspect as well as the physical, and then obviously come back to this video. So what we're going to do guys is we're going to jump straight into why I enjoy doing it, and then we'll talk about the benefits and how you can get started doing them yourself. Okay guys, so why do I in particular like doing long run workouts? So there are two reasons in particular. There are lots of reasons in general, but two things really stand out to me. Number one, it's my mental strength, my mental toughness that it builds and it helps me kind of dial into. And number two is the speed endurance work. That's a bit of an obvious thing to say. Let me come back to that because there's a couple of specifics that I want to dive into on that one. But let's start with the mental toughness. Now for me, I've always kind of struggled with longer distance runs, mainly because of my posture and because how tall I am. I'm running along like this, and towards the end of the race I really start to lean over, the back curls, and you know, things go south from there. Now I've been working really hard in this training plan, and in particular last year at the gym, to do a lot of strength work, and I'm doing a lot of that alongside to hopefully help that, and I can feel a major benefit of that, which I'll talk about in a second. But in terms of the mental side, there's always a bit of a mental block for me when it gets to the longer distance. So I'm finding now doing these longer run workouts, in particular for the marathon, bearing in mind I've done a lot of them for the half marathon 10K, I've found them extremely beneficial. I've always kind of got to 18, 20 miles in my long runs, and I've been really satisfied with how I've done, and I've felt good, but I've always felt tired. But I'm now getting to that point where 20 miles is starting to feel relatively easy, and I'm touching wood right now. It's starting to feel relatively okay. And for me, from a mental side of that, that is a massive boost. If you saw my opening clip from my sub 255 week 7 video, I said I cannot believe how easy 21 miles feels. I genuinely, it was like I was on cloud 9, and that's all from working hard during these long runs, starting off doing an hour easy, doing 45 minutes easy, and then kicking into a higher intensity for a longer period of time, and then having a cool down. All that's doing for me personally is not only maximising my speed endurance work, which we'll talk about in a second, but from a mental perspective, teaching me that I can run fast on tired legs, that I can push when I don't want to push, and that I can grind out a workout over 2 hours long and make it a success. So from that aspect, the mental side is giving me a massive boost. From a speed endurance side, naturally on paper you would look at that and go, yeah, that's going to work really well for your speed endurance. You're doing 1 hour easy, then you're doing 3 by 20 minutes at half marathon pace, and then you're doing 45 minutes easy afterwards, or whatever the structure is. But what I'm really starting to notice in my training now is how easy some of the harder paces once were, now are. Now obviously that's a natural progression during a training plan. Things start to click and things start to get easier. However, in particular, when this happens in a session, it's one thing. When it happens on a long run, it kind of makes you go, wow, okay, this is really working, because all right, we might be doing 400, 800, 1200, 1 mile repeats, and we might be chopping 2 or 3 seconds off of those repeats and go, oh my gosh, I can run those 3 seconds faster now, 2 seconds faster. But when you're getting to 21 miles, and you're feeling comfortable, that's when you start to believe, that's when you start to go, wow, I could have run another 5 miles. I could have carried on and run a marathon. And granted, I wasn't running at marathon pace, but to feel like that in training is fantastic, especially to be feeling like that a week 8 into a week 16 or 17 plan, because we're nearly halfway now. So from that perspective, from the speed endurance side, they work a treat for your longer distance. It's one thing doing the speed endurance for your shorter intervals, but to do them for your long runs, and then for your long runs in weeks to come to feel better, it's mind-blowingly amazing. And from my perspective, again, that just ties in with the mental side, that just is a winning combination. So for me, that's why I enjoy doing them. Okay guys, so I'll keep this bit short and sweet in terms of the benefits, because we've kind of just touched on that, and then we'll jump into how you can maybe incorporate them into your marathon training. So obviously the benefits are going to be things like speed endurance and mental toughness. More little things, more specific things within those realms are things like running hard on tired legs, running longer on tired legs. Those are things that obviously you all want in a marathon. You want to be able to get to mile 20, 21 and go, oh, my legs are tired, but I can do this, and have that instilled belief that you can run hard on those tired legs. Obviously, naturally, then that filters down to the shorter workouts you're doing in the week. Just take, for example, today, I went out for a tempo run, which is to be in zones 3 and 4, which is about where I'm going to be running my marathon pace. And I was clocking 6:30s and 6:20s, which is way quicker than what I would be doing in a marathon, but I'm in the right zone to be running my marathon. Therefore, mentally, I'm going, wow, okay, so this training, all this speed endurance is clearly helping my my zones, and I know that because, and I will talk about this in a separate video, I have just bumped up my zones. I've got more efficient, therefore my zone levels have moved up. I'll talk about that, as I said, separately, but that all filters down to these shorter workouts. So maybe at the beginning of the plan, where I'd have been hitting maybe late 6:30s, early 6:40s, I'm now already filtering down into the 6:20s, which is a great confidence boost, and it just makes you think, wow, if I'm running this much quicker now, then hopefully by the time I come to run 6:40 pace, which is what I need to hit in my marathon, that's going to feel like a breeze. Fingers crossed, he says. And obviously there are other fantastic benefits to long run workouts I find mainly encompassed under the mental and speed endurance side, but those for me are the key reasons as to why I love to do them. So how can you guys incorporate this into your training? Well, let me just say as a disclaimer, if you have a training plan at the moment and you're following that really well, don't start chopping and changing it just because I have said this and you think it might be a good idea, but do think long term about how you can incorporate this. I started 2 years ago, maybe 2.5, no, in fact, it was probably 3 years ago doing this with my long runs. When my long runs are up to 10 to 12 miles, maybe 13 miles, and I'd start to do, for example, the last mile fast. That's how I'd start. So I would run, say, 11 miles, then the 12th mile I'll do fast, and then the 13th mile would just be a plod home. So when I was at that sort of level, I would just work on doing the last mile fast, trying to save something back to work on pushing hard. That then progressed to 2 miles, progressed to 3, progressed to 4, to progress to 5, to the point where on my first 20-mile training plan a couple of years ago, I ended up doing workouts that were 17 miles long, and I would run for 10 miles easy, and then I would kick into 6 miles at threshold pace, and then 1 mile easy home. So that's how I started. I really did make it a gradual progression, which has been the kind of the theme with my running. Everything has been very gradual. I've not rushed anything, I've not pushed hard, I've not kind of tried to get to the top as quick as I can. So it really was a case of starting off a mile fast at the end, and that's what I can recommend to you. Maybe just try that. If you're out on a long run, just try and push it a bit harder for the last mile and see how you get on. From there, that progressed to, as I said, that and bigger workouts, and then it started to become a bit more structured. So when I was doing my own stuff before I teamed up with Doug, I might do sort of 18-mile long runs and then maybe do 3 minutes on, 2 minutes off in the second half. And that didn't have to be fast, that just had to be kind of an effort. You don't even really need to get too specific about zones in the beginning. For me, it was all about like mental toughness and building in my head that I could run a bit quicker. So maybe I would try and go 20-30 seconds a mile quicker, but not like kind of like really go into hyperdrive and try and kick up to half marathon pace. Whereas now I'm at the point 4.5 years into running where I'm doing things like 20 milers where 45 minutes are easy, and then I'm doing 3 by 20 minutes at half marathon pace, dropping that right down to 6:05, 6:10 pace, and then letting myself go back up to the easier 7:45 to 8 minute pace there. So you can see there's been a very gradual progression. That is what I'd encourage you to do if you ever fancy trying it. Just start easy, just literally, or if you want to do an interval type thing, literally 30-second bursts. 30 seconds on, 1 minute off, just in a mile. Just do that and see how you feel. It's a great feeling to be able to finish a run strong. It really builds that mental strength. It really builds encouragement in you. And after 2 or 3 weeks, you'll notice a massive difference in your training, especially on those shorter workouts. So I hope that was informative, and I hope you enjoyed that, guys. It's been a pleasure once again to bring this series to you. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like, share it with your friends, and of course do consider subscribing to the channel for weekly running content. And of course you can now support the channel using the donation link below. And I will see you next time. Until then.